In this week's Silver Screen Report, we have the inside scoop on next week's schedule change,
the ID enforcement policy,
and advanced art classes at Dutch Fork.
Good afternoon, Dutch Fork. Today is Friday, January 25th, and your Silver Screen Report starts now.
Starting next week, homeroom will now be on Mondays and Fridays. Here's Ryan Brabham with the story.
Here at Dutch Fork High School, there is a major schedule change starting next. Both students and teachers will be affected.
At this point, I think we're just trying to find some balance. We have a lot of teachers and students who like more structure, and so this will allow for us to have 2 days of structure.
Academic assistance or go to a counselor. And if you're having a lot of stress, just hang out with your friends and chill.
There are mixed reactions from the student body about the change.
Because there's not enough teachers having their homerooms available, so a lot of people are just walking around looking for a place to go.
I think they put this policy in place because there's a few people that don't do what they're supposed to do, and then they blame that on all the students in Dutch Fork High School.
When enacted, students and teachers must report to Fox Focus on Mondays as well as Fridays.
We also want students to have some downtime because they have really busy days, have very rigorous schedules, and sometimes they just need a little downtime. So what we want is for students who maybe need some help with homework or help with making up a test or just need some notes, we want them to go for academic assistance and get that help that they need.
This has been Ryan Brabham with your Silver Screen Report.
Wearing IDs is an important way to ensure student safety. Mason Bar has a lowdown on the recent ID crackdown.
Admin and staff are cracking down on IDs this semester for the student safety.
The Sugar Lawrence High School, about 1,749 students enrolled as of today. We know everybody here belongs here. We've got students coming off campus and leaving, going to Cape, going to Irmo, going to different places. So we need to make sure they actually belong on our campus, and we can identify this ID. We know they're a Dutch Fork high school student and they're in the right place.
Identity, like, is who you are. Like, if something happens to you, then they can figure out who you are by looking at your ID.
Sure that we're all safe in the school, you know, so people can't come in when they're not supposed to be here.
ID system, students are not only required to wear IDs, but lanyards corresponding to the grade level are being enforced as well. Failure to do so may result in a 2-hour detention.
Well, I hate them because they're just stupid. And I mean, anyone can get in the school, even without an ID. Like, you should say you're a parent or something, you know?
They really need to wear their IDs because it's a safety measure. We're responsible for every single person in this building.
There are a variety of ways to pay off ID debt. Here are some other tips.
Like, you're getting temporaries. You have already gotten up to 3 to 6 temporaries in just 1 quarter. Just buy a second ID and keep it in your backpack, because if you forget the first one, you can pull out the second one.
I would definitely pay for a new one, even though it's like $6, but that's compared $40 or $6, so like, I would definitely buy a new one.
Very important item about IDs is that students can use Classy Cash from the teachers for doing good deeds or something nice around the school. They can use that to pay for their temporaries and their IDs.
This has been Mason Barr with your Silver Screen Report. But don't forget about this guy right here.
The SAT word of the week is mandate, a noun meaning an authoritative command.
Studio Concentrations is an advanced art class for students wanting to expand their love of and skills in art. Here's Kylie Fine with more.
2D and 3D Studio Concentrations are advanced art classes that hone the skills of artists by beginning with assigned projects called breadth.
They start with their breadth projects, which that just simply means a range of media.
I get to build like my own pieces, and I get to concentrate on one specific aspect. So right now I'm concentrating on spherical objects and orbs.
So what we do is we learn about usually the different types of art that there is, and then she'll give us a project to do, and we'll have to infuse either some of those into one piece of art so that we learn how to take up space.
Second semester students are allowed to choose their own concentration and work on it throughout the remainder of the year without guidelines.
My concentration is on the human experience, you know, like in America.
My concentration for studio concentration is the exploration of like spheres and orbs to like explore the like aestheticness of them and like the use of contrast of like different colors and patterns and textures and stuff.
Students who want to sign up can grab audition forms off of Jason and Sheely's doors.
You get to do whatever you want in the class pretty much. You get to like fully explore like what you like enjoy about art and build whatever you want. So it's pretty cool, and the class needs more guys.
This being my first year teaching it, I was super excited because I feel like you get more time with each student.
If you really have a love for art and you want to have more freedom with what you can do, then you should apply to studio concentrations so that you can have a freedom of, you know, to express yourself.
If you're interested, all information for applications is on the form. This has been Kylie Fine with your Silver Screen Report.
Not such a long time ago, in English teacher Lori Rodney's room, the sci-fi fantasy class began gathering together to enjoy and discuss the genre. Max Franks has the scoop.
Sci-fi and fantasy literature is a class offered at Dutch Fork where students explore the many facets of the sci-fi and fantasy genres.
It's a class where we study about the science fiction and fantasy of the books and novels, and generally try to recreate some of those things, our own stories, really.
So science and fantasy class is it basically teaches you the difference between sci-fi, fantasy, and science and how they intermingle to help out each other.
It's an elective that's offered through the English department, and we are exploring the genres of science fiction, fantasy, and everything that's in that general realm. There's so many different genres there.
Sci-fi and fantasy literature has been a course offered in the past, but is only available when enough students sign up.
You know, this is my first year here, so I know that science fiction has been a course that's been offered here in the past. And depending on how many students can actually fit it into their schedule determines whether or not the class will run.
Students in Ronnie say they took this class to expand their knowledge of sci-fi and fantasy literature and help them in their own writing.
I like to think of reading a lot more into the science fiction and the fantasy books. Maybe even write some of those myself. I kind of like to write a bit.
I really like sci-fi and fantasy literature and TV shows and movies and all forms of media. So when I saw it on like the roster, I was like, oh, I gotta take that.
It's just such an interesting genre, and it is so broad and it's so interesting. The idea of, I have a great imagination. I have lots of siblings who are in science and friends who are really deeply rooted. So I'm really fascinated because science fiction and fantasy crosses that line between the value of storytelling and the value of science in our world today.
Science fiction and fantasy literature is available for all classes as an elective. This has been Max Franks with your Silver Screen Report.
For this week's Kids in the Hall, we asked students about their ideas for new classes.
I would have a baking class because I like to bake on my free time and it would be really nice to do at school.
I would say baking because I only know how to do cakes and brownies, and I would baking because I like baking and seems like an interesting thing to do.
School counselors are meeting with students right now to plan their schedules for next year. Will Hall takes a look at the process of IGP meetings.
Every year, students grade 8 through 11 meet with their student counselors to discuss individual graduation plans.
This is a chance to sit with the student and the parent to check on their academic status currently, how they're doing in their classes, see if there are any issues and concerns, and if need be, get them into tutoring or set up a plan.
Students talk about why it is important to have their IGP meetings every year.
What classes you're interested in your career classes, basically.
You know, you talk about your grades you need to take to get to the next grade. You know, if you're a sophomore, you talk about the grades you need to have, the course you need to take, they need to pass to get to the next grade, you know.
Even though some students always get their choice of class, students tell us how important it is to have IGP meetings.
We discuss future plans. You know, what is it that you want to do after high school? What do you see yourself doing as a career? And then the other part of that is to review courses and complete the registration process for the next school year.
It can help me for like with my future job and what I want to do and what's going to help me and make sure I get everything that I need, all my credits and all my education that I need.
This has been Will All with your Silver Screen Report.
And now for some announcements. Students, you should have received your report card from your homeroom teacher today. Don't forget that you'll report to your homeroom again on Monday. Model UN meets Thursday during Fox Focus in room 222. Feel free to bring your lunch. Now here's Todd with more.
Thanks, Allie. The Dutch Fork High School Literary Magazine needs your submissions. Share your best art, photography, and writing with us at dflitmag@gmail.com. For questions about the literary magazine, please see advisor Amy Medlock-Green in room 252 during your Fox Focus time. The National Beta Club induction will take place next Saturday from 6 until 7:30 p.m. in the auditorium. Beta Club members, please let sponsor Kelly Payne know if you can attend. The annual D5 Be a Fan 5K will take place tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Come out and support runners, rollers, and walkers as they begin and end the event at the stadium. There will also be a mascot race between Foxy, the Chick-fil-A Cow, the Spring Hill Stallion, and the Irmo Yellow Jacket. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.